What's going on, everyone? And y'all know, sometimes I like to make these controversial videos where I speak my mind about things in Generation Zero, be it the company, the community, the development, whatever, man. I like to tackle the hard subjects because I think that's a small part of what I'm here for in making content for Generation Zero. So, let's discuss today about whether or not Generation Zero has too much DLC in the game. Some ideas I have for shifting things around slightly, as well as what I think the reality is here with DLC and GZ. So the first and most important thing to start with here is the titular question. Does GZ have too much DLC? And flat out, I'll say it now. No, I totally don't think that Generation Zero has too much DLC, or that the DLC comes out at such a rate that it's overwhelming, or greedy, or sinister in any way, shape, or form. We are not nickel and dimed for our gameplay in Generation Zero, and though we can expand our grind and arsenals and add additional bits such as extra dirt bikes or storage, structures, and base building, all we're ever charged for in the game is optional content to expand on the stuff that the base game already offers. There are some companies out there that would charge you for something simple like upgrading the Plundra. Looking at you, Tarkov. And there are some companies out there that would take the weapons we get in packs, mix them in with all of our common weapons in a box, and make us roll dice for what we get in loot boxes. Plain and simple, I think that GZ does DLC quite well, and the value we get from buying DLC is purely optional. Though there are some small adjustments I'd make for 2023 in order to avoid some of the pain points that I've seen in the community lately. It's still objectively beneficial, not just on our end, but on the end of Generation Zero as a whole to have these DLC. Now, let's start off with how GZ has had DLC pretty much from the get-go here in the game, because this matters, and the timeline of this matters too. So in the first year, just about 4 months after the release, we saw a paid pack drop for GZ, the Sweet Vanity Pack, and it's pretty sweet. This is the pack with the Indiana Jones outfit, and one of my favorites, the Miami suit. It costs $5 in Canada. Before this, we had one free pack, and afterwards we had one more free pack of vanity items. But that $5 price point is something to keep in mind here. Then we saw Alpine Unrest, the first major DLC expansion in November of 2019. An absolute banger loved by the whole community. A bit steeper of a price point at $8.99, but still totally worth it for the plot and the new island. Then Phoenix Rising. This was June of 2020 for the same price. Though not quite as loved by the community, I still think the plot it adds is even spicier than Alpine Unrest's and offers a ton of merit in its unique mission structure. It was a few months after Phoenix Rising that we saw our first weapon DLC. At $5 Canadian, you get 3 weapons in the first US weapons pack. You can see why this is a much better option than the previous vanity pack that's the exact same price, offering you a handful of new guns that get added to the loot pool, not only benefiting your combat, but your looting experience as well. So, does this mean that the Sweet Vanity Pack is overpriced? I think it does, but we'll chat on that one in the next segment. After the first US pack, we got the Soviet pack in May of 2021. This was mid-pandemic, and so it was the last we saw of any DLC until 2022, when the pandemic simmered down finally. One of my favorite DLC of the bunch. The RLG is still one of the best weapons in the game, and likely will be for a long time. In February 2022, we were just getting back on track and saw our first miscellaneous base building pack. And this was when DLC started to really ramp up this year. After that, we've seen DLC pretty much monthly, till we had a short break before the motorbikes just last month. All weapon DLC stayed at the same price of $5 except for the base building and items, which range in prices up to $9 for the bikes. But the thing to keep in mind is that we haven't seen a standalone DLC be anything more than $10, and we haven't seen a volume of anything more than one DLC a month, which I gotta say, is an impressive turnover rate following 2021's rough year. DLC has become intrinsic to the business model of Generation Zero, plain and simple, and it truthfully was set up to be the model from the very start. This is something that didn't happen overnight or was an uncalculated decision. This has always been Generation Zero, even if some folks didn't see it. So, let's speak on the business of this all, because that's pretty important too. So, here's a spicy opinion, but some of the packs are a bit expensive for what you get. Namely, the vanity pack in specific. Personally, I think the vanity items should have a lower price point of $3 or $4 at most, as they are purely cosmetic and offer less gameplay value than the weapon packs of the same price point. As well as the tactical equipment pack. Even though it offers a bunch of stuff, it's not much better than a weapon pack outright. But, on the other hand, Generation Zero does need to be sustainable as a business, and this is something I don't need to talk on too heavy because it's obvious. But in the end, if we want to see Generation Zero continue and offer us huge DLC and crazy updates and even sequels or spin-offs, then we need to be able to be okay with dropping a bit of cash every once in a while, because the alternative isn't quite so great. In order to get funding for things without community support, we could see Generation Zero become exclusive, or updates, or DLC, or whatever, just to attain the financial funding that they need to continue development. Now, there are probably tons of backups for Generation Zero to keep it alive, but it needs to be of a benefit to Avalanche still, realistically. So, in order for us to avoid having scenarios where we could see that happen, I think paying for a DLC pack every month or two isn't the worst option out there. As long as we stay away from in-game currencies or loot boxes, then I think DLC where you know what you get is beneficial overall for Generation Zero as a whole. So, for our last part of this discussion video here, now that I've gotten all the spicy stuff out of the way, how can Generation Zero shift things around to have an even better pacing throughout 2023? And the first big one is offering free weapons again. Just a few throughout the year that can keep things interesting loadout-wise for players that maybe can't afford the DLC. There are plenty of weapons left to be filled out, so seeing stuff like maybe a double-barrel shotgun or new hunting rifles through the year would be really beneficial to the whole flow of things, I think. And the other one is bringing us another major expansion DLC. I really think that the community would benefit as a whole if we got a brand new island to go to. It is one of the most requested things, and I think that it would sell like semlas on Fat Tuesday. It would sell like wildfire, man. Of course, though, that's entirely just my 2 cents. I'm no business insider, just some guy with a microphone. So to close here, DLC has always been a thing in Generation Zero, and even though it's a bit more constant now, that benefits the game's longevity and ability to not only make the free content that we enjoy, but even making a game we'll enjoy next with Generation Zero's potential sequel. There's a mountain for us to overcome for Generation Zero to reach its potential, but we are the community that can make that happen. We just need to all band together to do it. So, thank you for watching. I know I'm making some strong statements here, but always remember every opinion matters in a conversation. So, please, sound off below if you agree, if you disagree, and maybe why too would be cool. But for now, cheers folks, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.